It's time to roll out the red carpet and put up the velvet ropes. Virtual Local Area Networks, or VLANs, are members only. Only users that belong to a VLAN are able to access and manipulate its data. This allows for increased security and some nice perks. In this edition of Tech Talks, we'll show how to configure port to VLAN interface settings on a CBS250 or 350 series switch through the command line interface. Next. Before we begin, let's go over what we're going to be creating on the CLI. We will create VLAN 10 and label it Sales, and create VLAN 20 and label it Customer Service. We also need to assign port 1 to VLAN 1, 10, and 20, and put the port in trunk mode. We'll assign ports 2 through 5 to VLAN 10, and put the ports in access mode. Finally, we can assign ports 6 through 10 to VLAN 20, and put the ports in access mode as well. For the beginners watching this video, we recommend you use the user interface via web browser. On our diagram here, we can see the traffic is segmented for a little more security. Ports 2 through 5 are for sales only, and ports 6 through 10 are for customer service only. For our first port, we have it assigned to all 3 VLANs, 1, 10, and 20. We have this as trunk mode because we want the switch to be able to carry traffic to the router and to provide access to an internet connection. Next, we'll hop into our CLI. To get into the CLI of our switch, we need to have PuTTY installed on our computer. We have our settings for our switch saved. We'll load it now. Our serial line is set at COM3, the spot in our computer in which our USB serial cable is plugged. Our speed is set to 115,200, as a speed set to the default value of 9,600 would cause PuTTY to not connect properly. Once everything is checked appropriately, we'll click Open. Once inside the CLI of our device, we'll hit Enter to type our username and password. First, we're going to create VLANs 10 and 20, naming them accordingly and entering into Privilege Executive mode. Sounds fancy, right? We'll enter this mode by typing config-t or configure terminal as the full version of the command, then entering VLAN 10, and finally naming it Sales. Pretty straightforward stuff. Let's do the same thing for VLAN 20. For the name, we'll enter CS for Customer Service. We now have 2 VLANs up. Let's go back to our objective list and check off what we've done so far before we start assigning ports. The first 2 steps are complete. Now we'll move to step 3 and assign port 1 to VLAN 1, 10, and 20, and make the port trunk mode. Back in the CLI, we'll enter config-t. Let's put port 1 into trunk mode. We'll enter in interface GE1. Next, we can enter switch port mode trunk. Up next are ports 2 through 5. We'll start off by entering in interface range GE2-5. After that, we'll enter in switch port mode access, followed by switch port access VLAN 10. We now need to do the same thing for ports 6 through 10. Remember, if we ever forget how to perform a command, we can always enter a question mark. This will show us how to finish the command. After entering in our range, we want to enter in switch port mode access. Again, we'll enter in switch port access VLAN 20. We now have all the ports assigned and in the right modes. Before we go, we'll enter in exit and show VLAN. We'll be able to see our ranges here and that everything we've set is successfully applied. Good news! We now have everything accomplished. Here are a few of the commands we used. And that's all we've got today. That's how to configure port to VLAN interface settings through the command line interface on a CBS250 or 350 series switch. Thanks for watching this edition of Tech Talks. We'll see you next time.